need the, and I don't need the lamp, the light. Oh no. All right. Professor Huda will join us soon. Assalamualaikum, Prof. Huda.
Muted from okay, that's fine now. Yep, inshallah. Walaikum assalam.
All right.
Can you see me? Yeah, okay, good. Yes, alhamdulillah, that's good. Yes.
Okay. Shall we start? Maybe with wait in next 1 minute, yeah, Prof. Yeah. Is that okay?
I'm ready, inshallah. So I'll share the screen from my end, or you do it from your end. How does?
Maybe you can try from here because then it will be more convenient for you to to arrange the flow. You want to try it?
Let me do that
now from your side.
Okay, I'll try from my side, inshallah. But then all I'm saying, in case my internet or Zoom connection gets disconnected briefly, we can come back again. So I think you got the PowerPoint and I got your mobile or your WhatsApp. We'll contact, right? If it can be momentarily frozen, just I'm not sure it happened to your system before or not. It can happen. So it gets momentarily. If it does, it automatically gets connected again. It takes a few seconds, right? So inshallah, hopefully there'll be no problem. And one other thing I might to say, I don't know, do you let students do some exercise during this 1 hour period? Because I got some, you can see in the PowerPoint somewhere, I think slide number 25 or 26, I given some link. So when I go there, maybe another half an hour, 35 minutes later, that link. So either we can give our 10 minutes for the people to download that link and work on the calculator, Eco Footprint calculator, and then report to the class, or we can do at the end. If somebody wants to do it, it's up to them. Okay, so I might need you a bit of help there. Would you be staying on during my session, or you will be leaving soon or something like that? Will you stay on?
No. I will accompany here till end of your session. No worries, Prof.
So what will happen is you go there, maybe you can keep the PowerPoint session open, the one that I sent it to you. Maybe sometimes you need to download that link. It's simple. There are 5 calculators link I have given. So it will take to do. People can say, where do you live? How big is your home? What do you eat? How often do you fly? How many cars do you have? Those kind of simple questions. The way we have our lifestyle, do you eat lots of meats? So that then gives the students an idea about the how you live it. So I'll explain that. So if the students are interested to spend about 5 or 10 minutes on their own calculator and then report back, I can ask, how many arts do you need? Somebody may say, I need only 10 hectares, 10 arts. I need 10 arts to produce the way I live. Anyway, I'll explain that. I find it interesting, but whether or not you want to do it in your class here, not it's up to you, entirely up to you. When you go there, decide that, okay?
I think it will be great, Prof. I think it will be great. Okay, class? I think it will be great, yeah? We can try, okay? Yeah? Okay. All right. They agree, Prof. They agree, so no worries.
Okay. We'll see. So I'm sharing my screen. There's only 110 of us already here. That's great, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. Yes, Prof. So let's start, yeah, Prof. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I will read your short bio. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, everybody, or good morning, someone in Europe there. And here in Australia, me and Professor Samsul Huda, we are in Australia. It's already nighttime here, 8:15 p.m. All right. So, Associate Professor Dr. Samsul Huda is an agroclimatologist, also agronomist or crop modeler, and associate professor at the Western Sydney University, Australia. He has over 30 years teaching, research, and outreach experience. His current research has a particular focus on climate-smart agriculture, food and water security, crop, soil, and water management for livelihood improvement, agriculture and water education, engagement and capacity building, environmental sustainability. He is passionate about understanding the social, economic, cultural, policy, and institutional aspects of food and water security, and engaging communities, governments, and other stakeholders to address local and regional natural resources, including water issues. He and his team have developed and applied a framework to address climate variability towards maximizing opportunities and minimizing crop production risk in a number of countries, including India, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Cambodia, China, and Qatar. He has more than 294 publications, wow, and led over 24 major externally funded research projects. Before joining the Western Sydney University in 1992, he had worked with other institutions, including South Australian Department of Primary Industries, Queensland Department of Primary Industries, and International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics, ICRISAT, India. The American Society of Agronomy bestowed on him its highest honor as Fellow of the Society in 2005. Wow, it's a really impressive CV, Prof. Huda. So, time and place are yours, Professor. Please. It's a bit freezing. Professor Huda, are you still with me? Oh, Professor Huda maybe have an internet connection problem, but he will join us soon. All right. Is trying to reconnecting. Ah, okay.
I just got back here. So that's the problem again, my system.
All right.
So I'll share this screen.
Yep. So it's 119 people. Right.
Okay. Sorry about that. It may happen again. I'm not sure. It does happen sometimes. Unstable. So my thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And the way I like to do, if you have any question, any point in time, need some clarification particularly, please interrupt either through chat or raise your hands, and Melanie possibly can help to us there, okay?
Yeah.
Now, as you all know, the topic is influencing carbon footprints in agriculture through adaptation of inputs and management of waste. The story that will happen the next hour or so is what is agriculture and value chain and the production aspect, and basically about the global consumption pressure that we have. And the carbon footprints, agriculture plays a very major important role throughout, just not only agriculture for food, but health issues, transport, different parts of life. You just can't separate agriculture. I just explained that. And that, of course, results some greenhouse gases and climate change impact and a lifestyle impact. So I'll go through that. And then, as the topic title suggests, how could we limit or reduce those emissions of carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxides? And then ultimately, we'll go through a process of ecological footprinting. You can use a model, you can use a tool, you can call it an index. So we'll try to see whether we can use some calculators to assess and see our lifestyle, how we live, and what can you do. And ultimately, just not the production of food, but also in the process of agriculture value chain, lots of wastes happen, food loss. That is, in the production line, we spend a lot of time and energy through fertilizer, through water, and all that adds to the footprints. And then you waste them in different chain. So I'll explain that. And then towards the end, some learning message. That this is what the story is all about today. Now, I'm assuming that many of you are doing agricultural related subjects, economics or resource use. And if not, at least we eat food, right? We use clothes. And so agriculture is very important for all of us. In general sense, what we see that in the agriculture environment plays a major role through production. Agriculture, generally you would think about the food production, right? Where the milk comes, where the rice comes from, where bread comes from, okay? So meat comes from, vegetables come from. So we think about the plant subsystem, which produces some of the plant-related food, or animal subsystem, which gives some meats and all that stuff. But also, we have the waste management system. We produce lots of waste in the whole process. I'll go through that in a minute. In all of it, we are adding footprints, carbon footprints, through the inputs, okay? But we also have the outputs. And in the process of managing the farm, those who come from farm or no farm, agricultural farm, either large or small, in the subsistence level of farming, like India, Bangladesh, Indonesia, small farm mostly, but in Australia and other countries, large farm mostly, but it doesn't matter. We have these kind of combination of systems, but we also manage through the human activity systems, through innovations of technologies, through allocating resources, through operations in the farming system concept. But today's session is not so much of agriculture production, but please think, and I may ask the question, as you say, towards the end, through some calculations, we can discuss what are the inputs in this process to grow food, to get food, and the transportation. So, and all this process, there's of course a purpose of developing a farm, productivity increase, and maintain sustainability, like we can maintain the farms forever for children and children and children. Don't want to, there's some concept for the people outside, some people have, oh, the farmers are really misusing the land, okay, because they keep on adding fertilizer, pesticides. That's not true. Most time farmers are also very much careful, caring the nature. They care nature. They care the resources, because this is where the lifestyle in the future, the children and grandchildren and other, they are dependent on it. So the environment plays a role, and the impacts that happen to maintain the production and productivity and increased production, increased and improved food security. And we need to have proper management policies and also sustainability. So I'm sure you have been using that word sustainability many, many times, and I'll go through that and understand what I understand. I'll share that concept also. In the process, there's impact on natural systems, socioeconomic changes. Many of you must be the economics and social sciences areas, cultural and evolutionary forces. So we need to think about all of these, and this is how agriculture comes across to many people. Now, in this particular slide, we are trying to say from agriculture, same kind of thing, but then adding a value chain, broader value chain view and agriculture. Now we have the production system here, as you can see, animal, plant, decomposition. One side is the input, that will fertilizer, water, nutrition. You can name through the climate aspects, because water comes from the rain, and solar radiation gives the photosynthesis. Those who are science students, you know that the plant production photosynthesis happens to solar radiation, and it has impact on the water balance. And then, of course, the outputs. So in this paper, we are not only focusing the management and adaptation of inputs. As you mentioned the title, we need to have lots of research going on around the world about the resource use efficiencies, so that what get 1 unit to return from 1 unit of fertilizer or water, what sorts of return do you get by applying 1 extra kg of nitrogen fertilizer or 1 kg extra or millimeter water kind of thing. So that's the use efficiency. We're doing it not only economics terms, but we also do physiological and agronomic terms, productivity increase and resource use increase. I'm not going details in this. My focus is in that process that we do, all of us need to consider about the carbon footprints. Can we live sustainably? Can we use the resources for long time to come without polluting the environment? And in the output section, as you will see, there are a lot of waste management aspects. So I'll deal with that towards the end. The consumption, the way we use our food habits, the way we live our life. So in this context, it's very important to think in that direction. And you will see the agriculture here is economic forces, environmental forces, and social sciences, social forces. And throughout the whole value chain, somewhere, multiple points, there will be an impact on the carbon footprints, the way we activate our activities that we do in the farm kind of thing. There will be some of the inputs will be coming outputs for some sources. So it's a think of a system. The system is a way agricultural works, production, and the value chain is the whole long process. Once they start producing the fruit and then going to the consumer end, in the process, lots of players, institutions, people get involved. As you all know, in the whole chain, value chain. And each of us then, in the process, they try to add some value to the product. Okay, either through packaging or making some different kinds of quality thing to the, so that the consumers pay for it to buy that particular thing. So you, from rice, from the, what do you call the gross product from here towards the consumer end, lots of things happen. So some of you, many of you are the students from economics and research. You know better than me, I think, in that process, what happens. But our focus today is in that chain where we can do something managing and reducing or influencing the carbon footprints. Okay, this is what we need to think about. Okay, so let's talk about the global context for the agriculture. Right now, well, it could be around 7 billion people around the world. By projection is 2035, 10 billion. But in my class, when I talk like this, in this semester, for example, students are asking, oh, how is the population going to increase or decrease because of the COVID? Because I'm talking about 2-3 months earlier when we were discussing the class, saying that, okay, 7 billion to 10 billion. The moment I say, somebody raise their hands and say, well, do you think somehow the population will increase or it's going other way around? Okay, so you tell me, but this is the projection has been there. But of course, looks to me that COVID is under control, at least some part of the world, but this is where projection is, the population is going to increase, okay? And if you have any thoughts, I'd like to hear that. Anybody has very challenging thoughts on that. The land area on the earth is about 14.7 billion hectare out of 51 billion total surface area. Think about the point I'm trying to think. For the moment, forget about I'm from Indonesia or Australia or India, whichever country is. Think world as one nation. And this is the kind of story I'm trying to build the next few slides. Okay, if there is no political boundaries, every country, every person is equal in the system, that 7 billion people that we have right now. Everybody has equal share to the resources that we have. Think in that direction. So that's the story I'm building. So let's say out of 14.7 billion hectare of land, only 8.3 billion hectare are biologically productive. That's some sort of statistics I'm giving. Now, how do we manage that 8.3 billion hectare to ensure global food security to meet the demands for the world population? Now, here's the science, and this is what I'm an agroclimatologist, as you say, an agronomist, a crop model, use our technology and knowledge around the world to how to improve. We got the land, but out of that, some of that may not be very, what you call that, you understand that arid areas, lots of water, but good areas, good soils, and all that kind of stuff, right? But how do we do scientific? That's one kind of question. How do you improve production and food security? That's the one area. But for this today's session, let's concentrate that out of that 8.3 billion hectare of land, how to do that is ecologically, environmentally sustainable. Okay. So we must balance our consumption with the natural world's capacity to regenerate and absorb our waste. Two things you have to think in the calculator, the footprint that I'm talking about. One is the production, and another is the waste that we generate. That's the food. I'll show you some slides, particularly in Australia, and I'm seeing in Qatar, from Middle East countries, a lot of food, people just waste. Okay, forget about the food loss, but food waste means what we don't eat. And they go to garbage. And to manage them, it needs energy as well, food waste. That's another footprint involved in that process, right? So we need to think about it. So in the whole process, technology plays a very, very important role. So we need to think in the current context, what sorts of technologies do we have in both of the production, like using the production side, but also in the waste management side. Okay, so science and technology should continue on and should contribute. Okay. Now this particular slide, to just make a point about the climate system and where we live in natural and the greenhouse concepts. Now, look at the figures, and many of you might have seen this in other contexts. The solar radiation, which is critical, as I mentioned beginning, that for many reasons. One is, of course, photosynthesis, which produces food. Plants need them, light. We also need energy, heat. And that solar is coming, that's heating up and the surfaces like water, plant, land. And in the process, I'll be very short. I don't want to go in the chemistry, climate class. Just simple understanding that sorts of complex interchanges that's happening in the biomass areas and the human activities that happens here is causing lots of changes. Now, in the process, terrestrial long wave radiation goes back to the systems. The solar sun giving us the solar, very critical to understand the carbon footprint aspects, and solar radiation accepting heat, changing all the surfaces, and the terrestrial long wave radiation goes back. In the process, the greenhouse gases are there, and the temperature, if we didn't have some sort of a control here, things could have been very cold, and Earth could not be able, we shouldn't be able to live for plants, lives cannot live there. So systems happening, dynamic equilibrium happening, but in the whole process, what's happening, as you say, when you add some greenhouse gases more through human activities anthropogenically, particularly in the post-industrial era, we are adding more carbon dioxide. I'll show you some numbers there, and methanes, nitrous oxides through fertilizer and agriculture, and methanes through animal production, agriculture, rice production, all that. So that is then causing a little bit of problem in capturing more temperature and greenhouse warming that's happening. Okay, that's the concept where the greenhouse that we talk about here is happening. Now, short is the carbon cycle that we have, the impact that we do on the carbon cycle, that you are moving vast amounts of carbon dioxide from the long-term carbon cycle, and also we're adding some to photosynthesis, as you mentioned, plant respiration. So this is the kind of carbon story, those who are interested to know and think a bit more about it. So I'll give you some examples of carbon and methanes and nitrous oxide stories, the greenhouse gases that's happening. Okay, and then some of you know the IPCC report, Intergovernmental Climate Change Assessment Report, that is going to increase temperature, I've seen, and the carbon dioxide's higher concentration happening. For not always bad, people have seen through the global warming and the carbon dioxide issues, there will be certain areas where earlier, I have done some work in China, for example, certain areas possibly could not be cultivated, but because of the warming, that area can be available. Some of our modeling work and actual field work have shown that in particular, it's by China. So there's not all the long but bad stories, but there are some opportunities as well. This is what I mean to say, risks and opportunities. There are some risks and there are opportunities as well. So we can think about the nutritional quality of the food and fodder that can be used in the current systems or in the future. So overall, the IPCC estimates that with agronomic adaptation, somewhere 15 to 80% possibility can be increased. So some of the good stories somewhere can be done. And I think you might have seen some pictures like this about agriculture and land use, how much they contribute to the greenhouse gases, quite high, as you can see here. And of course, there are other things like transport, the power, different kinds of land use, agriculture. That's some sort of a contributions. There are about 1/3 is agricultural land use for the greenhouse gas emissions. Now, what constitutes a greenhouse gas? Okay, we talk about mostly carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide. Okay, there are the others as well. So here we're showing some numbers. This is pre-industrial time, 280 ppm carbon dioxide concentration, but currently around 400 ppm, so it's gone up, as you can see. And the atmospheric lifetime, well, 30 to 90 years. The methane is much lower than that. It's a parts per billion, as you can see here. It's going up. But the point we are making, and the nitrous oxides, which comes from the fertilizer uses and other aspects in agricultural and different sources. So we need to be mostly not concerned only for carbon dioxide, the carbon footprints, but also need to think about other, because of the atmospheric lifetime and great, what you call the potentials that we can see here. If we do some calculation, I'm not going into details on that. If you just say about 1 tons of carbon dioxide in 100 years, that's a say 1. So if you have a similar sort of thing for methane, it will have 25 times impacts. And nitrous oxide will have 298 times impacts. Okay, the sources of methane. This kind of slides came from, I think, one of the also IRI, International Rice Research Institute, for saying in the Philippines. Those who know about rice cultivation, there are sources of methane coming from the rice cultivation. There are many now ways of technology which can be used to minimize that. This is what I say, the adaptation. I'm not going in details on that. If anybody has interest, we can talk about it. But similarly, in the animals, the methanes, different animals will have a different kind of contributions they make in different ways they contribute the methane. Again, through management, like feed habits, feeding them, breeding them, managing that can be changed and improved. Right now, it's saying the 44% of anthropogenic methane sources is coming from IPCC reports. Okay. Similarly, nitrous oxides, it's agricultural soils, biomass burning, industrial sources, domestic animals, tropical forests. So different sources is coming, the contributions of nitrous oxides is happening. Okay, so what can you do? It's very important. If you look into the history, I come from India originally, and still I just say go to India and many other developing countries. India, those of you know, after independence, 1947, on independence, and up to about mid-60s, people are concerned about Indian food security. That just possible India won't be able to feed its population. So I won't go in details. Many of you know the story, but fortunately, the Green Revolution was introduced. Some of the international research institutes, like Mexico, CIMMYT, the developed countries, in short, the developed and developing countries collaborated and come up with the new technologies. And in the fertilizer varieties, improved varieties, water management, nutrition management. So people added fertilizers. Now the question is, last few years in the developing world, like India, China, maybe now developed country, India still called a developing country, people using on Indonesia, I'm sure, lots of fertilizers. Use, particularly the nitrogen, depending on in the soil and where you're producing nitrogen, fertilizer is one of the most important one that you have to use, add it to get not only the production of the crops that you grow, most crops, but the quality of this wheat. You can produce wheat of 10 tons, but if you don't apply nitrogen right time, you may not get the good quality and may not get good price and quality of bread. So I won't go into details. So hence, we need to apply nitrogen fertilizer, and there is a lot of research, a lot of applications going on, and farmers use it at appropriate time, but still there are misuses happening around the world, okay? Lots of fertilizer, sometimes, not only economic issues, like if you apply more fertilizer than needed, with just in economic terms, law of diminishing return applies, so you can apply at a certain point in time, but you don't get the optimum return after that. But still, many people do use extra fertilizers and not right time, and water not right time, and all of that, not only are wasting our resources, costing money, but also polluting the environments, the carbon footprint that we're talking about. So here are the points where we can do a lot to minimize those impact, what you call the carbon reductions influencing that we can influence, okay? So given some statistics about how much of nitrous oxide comes from human activities, but it's important, as you say, adding nitrogen fertilizer to soil helps stimulate plant growth, but half of it is not used. Either it goes as a leaching loss, we call it, on the soil, or volatilization like gas, nitrous oxide, and also some interest on the manure, the way, what kind of manure you use and the impact, and then the nitrous oxide, as you say, that's emitted in the system. Now, how do we reduce some of these agriculture inputs? So here is it. If you're a manager, either as a policymaker for the country or a farm or a company, whatever you do, so we have a choice of land and soil type, which to go where, the planning. And then, of course, the trade-off in land use pattern, like crops versus tree plant. You know, there was time where people were talking to biofuels and all that, but we have to think about the competition and proper resource use of the land, so food versus other aspects. One of the important messages that I like you to think, we need to think in it as a system, whatever you call it, agriculture as a system. Of course, it will depend on how you define the system. It varies from person to person. You need to draw a boundary. Where do you draw the boundary? That depends. Okay. We can also optimize carbon footprint through input uses, like I just said, pesticide, fertilizers, and machinery that we use. It takes lots of fuels because these days large machineries are used, all either from land preparation to harvest aspect. We can think about the alternative energy like solar power driven nuclear energy, or alternative energies like solar power driven, renewable. And most important, this is what I learned when I was a kid growing up in a village in West Bengal in India. My uncles and parents, they were growing what you call soil. They're very much concerned with soil health. In small subsistence farming, they will have animals, they use their waste products, and not only used for biofuels, we have a tendency in the developing country, in many places, to use some of those cow dungs and all that for use for fuels. But some people are concerned that should go on back to the farm so that the manure and improving soil health. Now it has been, again, the last few years, very important aspects on thinking about the soil health issues, okay? Plant health, soil health, human health, animal health, thinking about that. That's very important. So there is an increasing awareness now of the impact of a lifestyle that you have. Okay? Everybody these days talk about it, I know, most people. So ecological footprints, when you talk about it, it's just not about how bad things are. Usually you think, oh, when you do the calculation, I just said to Melanie, if we can get to that stage, do it. Not to say that, well, it's bad, one kind of thing. It's think how it is. So we need to think about a tool to measure our ecological performance, either as an individual, or as a family, or as a farm, or as a village, or as a nation. we can, or as a whole global aspects, we can think about it and see how we live and what can we do about it. That's what I mentioned about the individuals, organizations, cities, regions. Now also, this ecological footprinting helps us to track our consumption relative to the resources nature can provide. We can live like this, but can the nature provide it? What impact has happened? So it shows how much biologically productive land and water area a given population occupies to produce all the resources it consumes and manage the waste using prevailing technology. Those are three important things. Prevailing technology. So we need to think about the technology. You just can't stop. Think about technology and science and applying them, and what we consume, how we manage our waste. So it's an accounting tool to measure resource use against the bioproduction, directly linking between what you do with the amount of land required to sustain that activity. Taking into account the land that's required to absorb that waste that is generated so that it's sustainable. And this unit usually expresses global hectares. So, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, that we have 8.3 billion hectares of land and 7 billion people. And if we think it's just one nation and everybody has equal share to the land, that means we have 1.5 hectare per person. I have 1.5 hectare, Melanie has 1.5 hectare, and each of you has 1.5 hectare. Think about that, that's all you have. That's all we have. But then we can think about that, of course, there's a water space. So we can think about 2 hectares. Because we're talking land, but we eat fish, other water sea products, right? So 2 hectares per person. Yeah. But then we're not human beings, and not the one. There are 30 other million people, creatures God has created in the system. Okay. So it's there. So they have to also share the resources. So to think about it. So this is the World Commission on Environment and Development. They're saying, okay, you give only 12% to them. They're not going to fight with us. They may say, people may say that 12% is not enough to allocate for the other creatures. But then think about that. It's not political, we can go and fight, but think about some allocation has been given. Okay, consider that. So in that process, then you may have about only 1.7 or 1.8 hectare, each of us. If we can stop, for example, there and then ask you a question, no, I won't do that now. Think in your mind, those who are listening, please, and actively, if you want to really, small class, I would like to do that, engage in at this point in time, and see if we give you 1.8 hectare and ask you your question, how many hectares of land you and your family use it to live life? Think about that in the background of mind, okay? All right. So we talked about this agricultural value chain before, and my colleague, Stephen Lalayette, who is formerly with the Australian Bureau of Meteorology, and we are working together for a book chapter called Agricultural Value Chains in Developing Economies. So bringing in the different concepts. So we need to think about the, as you said, economic forces, environmental forces, and social forces. We got input. But we need to think about the policy issues, infrastructure, social enablers, particularly if we are thinking about where this output goes in the supply chain, not only the consumption, as you said, but also waste disposal. Lots of waste are produced. You know, each home, each family life, each person's life, we waste a lot of food, a lot of other things, resources we misuse. What are we going to do? How do we dispose them? What's going? It's going to impact environments. What can you do with it? What sort of technology do you have? So I'll have some slides for the end, one or two, to discuss about that aspect as well. Okay, but most importantly, as you can see, we're operating, agriculture operates all three areas: economy, environment, social sciences, but also to be sustainable, we need to think of the policy issues. And each of us in the system, hopefully particularly those, the younger generations will be political leaders, future leaders, think about it. What sorts of impact, what sorts of influence can you make? One is influencing carbon footprint in my talk, expecting that each of us in our own way influence now and in the future in our different capacities as a citizen, global citizen, okay, and the supporting services. So let's talk about the food security issues. Food security in West. Food security, if I ask you, what do you mean by food security? What's your definition? That if there's how many people are here, 110 or something, at one point 115. So you'll have 120 definitions of food security. What do you mean by food security? I have a number of projects that I work on internationally, Australia, Indonesia, just say India, Qatar, Cambodia, in this kind of issues. So food security is when all people at all times, they got the physical access. It's just not only have food, but it needs to be economic access, social access, sufficient food, including in Australia, when this COVID came, I'm sure some of you know, I don't know your country, where you come from, we had huge problem. Sometimes, you know, I go to the Woolworths, some of the stores, some of the foods like lentils, pulses, and some other aspects not available. People are just buying and hoarding, just buying and taking it. A country like Australia had plenty of food available, right? So access, do people, like we got these 7 billion people, do you have equal access to the food? Not only food, but quality food, healthy food, nutritious food, safe food, okay? And to meet their dietary needs. As you know, in the health issues, many times undernourishing is bad, but also overeating and by dietary products are very important for the health issues. And hence, it's very important to think about the food security issues, not only production, but also quality food and making them available. And as I mentioned before, to do the quality food, again, the introductions of fertilizers, nutrition, right time you need to apply nutrition in the agricultural field or in the crops areas, either in the greenhouse or open field, wherever you're growing. Okay, so very important. In that process, the carbon footprint happens if you apply too much or too little, but nothing. Okay, so the pillars of food security is food availability, food access, food use, and stability of those above. And I just give my own, I'll read those, it's already there in the slides that you can see the definitions. Only point out to see the food waste iceberg, how much? $750 billion, $1 trillion. That's much of waste has happened. So not only the footprint that we are adding in producing them is very important to add fertilizers, add water, add nutrition, as you said, but also we are wasting a lot of it. So what can you do to minimize, and that adds carbon footprint, okay, water footprint, if you use that word. So lots can be done. Let's see, and much of the things can be done through behavioral change, okay? And we got, I think Melanie invited me to talk about it. I'm not going into details. We published some papers on safeguarding food and environment in Qatar. It's a large project we worked on, and we published a few papers on that, and people do ask for it. So one of the issues that we had, social issues like how do we manage our cultural, if you use the word cultural, activities of the food habit, particularly. We don't eat food too much, but still people have a habit to keep them more, I won't go in details, but some of you know that. If you want to ask a question, I can go much more detail on that kind of issues. as well. Now, geographical distribution of food waste and different processes. This is the food loss, we call it. Can be production side, this color, handling and storage, processing, distribution, market, and consumption. Look at the developed world like North America, how much is happening in this end, consumption versus production. Whereas in sub-Saharan Africa, less in the consumption, because there's not much food available. A lot of happening because not of technologies and that end. Okay, so no matter where we are, it's happening. Okay, either here, that end, or this end. Okay, so if you think of global citizenship, what can we do? And this is a Food and Agriculture Organization report. We used it in one of our research projects that you say Safeguarding Food and Environment in Qatar project. Distribution and market, we waste a lot of stuff, which invest a lot of energy to produce them and then not using them properly. It's lifestyle or thinking habit. Now, origins of food waste. Some example immediately after harvesting on the farm, handling after leaving the farm for transport and storage, in the processing, during industrial or domestic processing and packaging, in the distribution, and in the consumption. Okay, we can all relate to this process. Okay, so food losses and waste take place during agricultural production, post-harvest and processing stages. It's logistics driven, behavior driven, food, drink thrown away, which is still edible. I talked about it a few times now. You all know that. And possibly avoid lots of stuff that we can do. Certain things are unavoidable that we cannot avoid them. Okay, so that's logistics-driven fossil fuel dependency. Is it sustainable? So global energy demand is increasing, as you all know. Fossil fuel reserves decreasing. And ultimately depends on the fossil fuel costs, okay, depending on which time of the year you are and what sorts of things happening around the world, right? The costs and their determinations. But anyway, depending how we calculate the cost, we really calculate actual terms, then you can see that. You can also ask this question, is this environmentally friendly? Global energy demand, fossil fuel consumption, and greenhouse gas emissions. Therefore, it is necessary to increase utilization of sustainable and renewable energy resources. Okay, so this extends beyond the West and to other parts of agriculture value chain as well. Okay, so typical ecological footprint influences the product that we use, meat and livestock-based products, high, very, very high. I can give you some numbers to produce 1 kg of meat, how much energy is required. You can find that through Google. Just put the numbers, somebody doing it. And so in packaging, processed foods, but if you use the fruits and vegetables, comparatively low. So the main diets, factors and calculation, main factors which influence the calculations or the calculators. So if you want to do it now, we can do it depending on how much time you want to spend. You'll ask some questions like the diet, what you eat, what sorts of transport do you like in Australia? Everybody has a car to go around, that kind of thing, you know. And should we do that? Can we use public transport? Should we do it? Can you wait for half an hour, plan our things and get a public transport and go, or whenever we feel like getting into the car and go drive, you know, 50 kilometers, 60 kilometers, 100 kilometers, just go and drive, okay? The housings, everybody has a big house, kind of, some people. Should we do that or do something differently? What sorts of housing do we have? the construction of the houses, consumer products, recycling. One example I gave when I was the student back in India, you say we used to carry jute bag to go to these markets. Jute bag, jute made bags. I'm not sure that you guys know that. So that will be usable in our home. It will kept few of them, 2 or 3, and we just use it. Whoever going out, you just keep on using for years. Okay, come and clean it, something like that, do it. But now when you went to university, those days, polythene bags came up. Then that became a fashion. So, oh, people say, oh, I don't use a jute bag. No, no, you don't. Use some they develop new things, technology, use it and throw it. Okay. And now things have changed. Last few years, people are going back, not to use, in our Coles or Woolworths shopping center that you go, they're discouraging us to use those kind of bags. What do you call the polythene kind of bags? So they're asking us to pay money for that now, or use the recycle or reusable bags kind of. Again, coming back, I'm talking about in cycle systems, people thinking and practice. But it is necessary kind of economics depends kind of thing. So I'm just asking you to think recycling. So what sorts of lifestyle that you live. Now, if you can see Melanie, can you see that the links that are given here can be seen?
Yes.
Okay, so how much time you got now? How much the class? Another half an hour or something?
Yeah, another half an hour, Prof. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'll do, not now, maybe let me finish this, or if you want to do it, if the students can choose any of these calculators, simply just go to another website and type this, and it will open up and ask you a few questions like which country do you live, and depending on which calculator you use, there are 5 of them here. Some questions like, basically it is where you live, what sort of food habit you have, how many cars you drive, or how far do you drive, how much do you travel, use bicycle or car, and those kind of questions. And then you can, I did some just before this class today, and depending on what question you ask, it can be, you need 3.7 arts to live the way you live. If everybody uses the way I live, we need 4 arts or 3 arts or 8 kind of arts kind of thing, whereas we have only 1 art, right, to live in the kind of thing. So if you like to do that, choose any of these. This is what I give some of our students a calculator, do this, and then we ask a question that, answers 3 questions like, what's the compare? If you did more than 1 calculator, and see, or maybe you can do it on time. You don't have to do it today, maybe. You will have the access to the PowerPoint or this, I'm not sure that this link. You do on your own, and you don't have to submit a report or anything. Ask the questions yourselves. I'm asking every student, and then see which one of these calculator you're getting different answer for one. The first one you get 3.5 words, other one you get 5. Then think of why are the difference. The difference is what assumptions are made. That's the kind of, basically what assumptions you are making and what are built in the model, okay? So just like any model, so use it and give the input, depending on what input you give, and you get different kind of answers, okay? So it's some kind of fun. I ask my students to do it and then maybe report it on 300 words. I said, use only 3 calculators, choose 3 of them, and see what sorts of answers, global hectares you get to live the way you live, and then write a 100 words report or 300 words report, depending on the kind of thing, and attach it to another document that on the assessment, as part of another assessment document that we do, I think. This is just a fun, that's what you do, okay? But if you want to do it, towards the end we can do it. Let me continue on then. Okay, the potential ecological footprint reduction can happen, as you say, through food and diet, adopt high vegetable and grain diet, reduce meat consumption, buy fresh foods, reduce purchase of prepackaged foods, buy local foods, adopt more fuel efficient modes for logistics,
fuel efficient machinery, efficient refrigeration, and AC renewable powered or possible. And similarly, recycle metals, energy. So these are everybody's knowledge, general knowledge kind of thing, how to link it. Okay, this came from some of those publications. Now, reducing greenhouse gas emissions. I'm going towards the end now, my presentations, almost. Greenhouse gas emissions. Agriculture is very important, as you say, for greenhouse gas emissions, as you've seen before. Methane emissions, fossil fuel use in fertilizers and pesticides. Land use and land management in reducing emissions. Potential for soil management to store carbon. We can talk a lot about it if there is an interest. How, as you say, soil health and soil carbon that you have, and carbon farming. Okay, so each of these topics is a few-hour sessions, but I won't go in details unless there's a question about the carbon farming and challenges. If you say something, and if it's more face-to-face class, would have been lots of questions by this time and asking and challenging kind of thing. Oh, well, yes, but how do you manage them? What sort of technologies are there to store carbon and for carbon, charcoal or something like that? And we'll talk about it, biochar, different issues. Okay, so what can you do in terms of minimizing that we can evaluate in the resource management? I would like to say the holistic resource management, natural resource management for enhancing productivity and farmers' income. We evaluate more sustainable, climate resilient, healthy agriculture and agri-food systems models, which are low carbon footprint. Now, I'll give you some examples. It not be necessary every ecological environment. In some environment kind of research that I'm currently doing, a livelihood improvement through climate smart agriculture in India, kind of research that I'm doing currently. So that's where this kind of fruits and crops are important. But as I said, the principle, we can use the climate resilient, healthy agricultural and agri-food systems models, and depending on what sorts of crops and which areas are there, choose a different kind of crops. So techno-economic evaluation, efficient water management systems, improving innovative irrigation technologies, and energy uses in agriculture. So these are some of the terms very heavily technical. I'm not sure how much it cuts through some of the economics people, students, but just to give a flavor, when you say, if you understand that, when you say climate resilient, I mean, you are all familiar that either there are too much rain or too little rain, drought, flood, high temperature, wind, nothing happening for the next 2-3 years, rainfall. So, but still, what we do in our research, I'm one of those around the world that we work on what you call agroclimatic risk and opportunity management technologies that are there so that we can maximize opportunities and minimize our risks. Of course, there are risks. If there's no water, you can't do much. But most part of the world, we do get rain at some point in time, but we don't use them properly. Okay, that water gets wasted. And if we use them properly, either through proper soil management, storing, reusing technology, we can make wonders. To catch a phrase like recently, I'm talking about in Indian context, as you say, in water issues, one of the top leaders in India are talking about India is not running out of water, but water is running out of India. That means there's plenty of water in India, but we're not managing them properly. For example, in the part of the country in the world, India, that I'm working, similar to Indonesia would be 1,600 millimeter of rain, 1,600 millimeter of rainfall in just 3 to 4 months, like July, August, or September, October. And more than 60% of it just wasted, go on a runoff and goes to the river or goes to the ocean somewhere. But what can you do to use that water, store that water in different places, different ways, and reuse them when necessary, rest of the year, or even that rainy season when there's drought period. I won't go anymore. So this is what I'm talking about, the natural resource management, what we can do through technology and people involvement, engagement, community support, and introducing new kind of crops and cropping systems sometimes. For example, the part of the country I was talking about, they didn't grow mushroom. For many it is cultural, maybe they know, but if you introduce that, you get more values, not only economically, but also diets. So maybe this is what you need to work with the people and introduce in the system and the business, agribusiness, agri-marketing. Now, recently something happening in the world, everywhere in the country of the post-COVID, COVID area, reverse migration. People from my village in India, many of people maybe in the village that live, they live, like I left my village and now in Sydney, Australia. So many people left, but in India particularly, and they, because of last 8-9 months, they lost their job and business, and they've gone back to the villages. I'm sure similar things might be happening in other countries, like Indonesia. I'm not sure about it, but India, I do know. So what's happening now? What can you do? Use those kind of labor forces going back to the villages and start some innovative business. People can do, and given the technology development and what do you call the phones, roads, so businesses like you can grow something in that part of my village in West Bengal, but can sell it to Kolkata and Bombay or somewhere else through technologies and marketing systems kind of thing. So what I'm saying, through these processes, we can improve our lifestyle, but all at the same time, minimize the footprint. So coming back to food waste, we can stimulate. We are working now in the Hawkesbury City Council area where I live near Sydney. We are working with us council, local government, some farmers and other people. We produce lots of food wastes and other wastes also. How can you use them to stimulate a local economy? Okay. And this is under consideration, this proposal is under consideration for funding, and the facilitating the role in informing the business of proven methods, food waste volumes, and the suitability of off-site, on-site food processing technologies, including consideration of either decentralized or centralized organic treatment. Connecting the business community with resources, okay, and service support the food waste. We're working on that in our local council level as we speak. I'm talking about those. Important is education, and this is what our last couple of slides that we have. The education is very important everywhere, including managing the key issues facing the waste system. Understanding, even in Australia, the main barriers to improve waste system. How do you reduce waste? Recycling better. Main opportunities are there. We need to have proper education to see which can be recycled, we can put, which one to go to which bin. Now, as you know, Melanie, you've seen that in your home, there are two bins. One is the recycle, another is not recycle, but still sometimes people are doubtful which one to put it so that this can be recycled. And simple education system is very important. Now, the global agenda, many of you have seen, I'm sure, during the last few weeks, that presentation that you have, people might have used the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals. Globally, significant improvements have been made in agriculture, as you all know that. I give the story in India in 60s, 70s through Green Revolution. People, India is now food secure, at least depending who you talk to, and most people have access to the food. Not necessarily quality food, but at least food is there, all right? But there are other issues come up, soil issues by the process. I'm not going in details, but still the poverty and hunger exists to some extent, have been reduced. But again, a great crisis is threatening today, just not only the pandemic, but the way we live, each of us, and the climate change aspects, the greenhouse gas emissions, all that you talked about in the beginning, is still threatening our lives, livelihoods, and dignity with the tragic consequences. Okay, we need to think. There was here in the class, 143 now, I can see the participants. We need to think as future leaders, what can you do about it? Now, the Sustainable Global Development Agendas, almost all of the 15 development goals do have key elements concerning the agricultural development. You can link with it, either through food, nutrition, health, plant health, and rural economy. So what we're saying that many of us say, we need a paradigm shift. When you think about innovative technologies, economically and ecologically, equity and sustainability, and to build a world that leaves no one behind. You need to think about it. And some of the issues I just touched upon, but we can go more in details to elaborate. So, global imperative in developing a shared agenda to promote alternative human actions in all sectors is IPCC 2007. To reduce carbon intensity of our lifestyles. If you really want to do that, we have a few minutes time now. Use one of these calculators and do it as an example. That's not the solution that will solve the problem, but I will give you an idea to think. What can you do as an individual or as a group, and to support the acquisition and deployment of skills needed to enable the reduction across many facets of our daily life. What sorts of relations, the kind of work that I do? I think, Melanie, you asked, give an option, either I talk about the food security losses that the Qatar project, or I presented in Vienna in 2010, I think, about the leadership issues on climate change and sustainability. Many of us, many colleagues in the university from medicine, engineering, law, business, humanities, social science are leading that project to understand about the sustainability, literacy, and issues, and how can you develop some of those contexts in the context of climate change, carbon footprint issues. So the education for sustainability is about change of values and attitudes. It's a more important one. Okay. Attitude, how we think, how we see life, how we value. Not through an abstract knowledge imparted to the students. Like if you see the many of the students, let's say we lecturers and professors, well, give a lecture like this, but it doesn't make any sense unless we think. And not only the abstract time, but the knowledge, think, and then apply it, explore, reflect. Okay, we need to encourage our learners to them, and then their own values. Each of us is 143 or 141 right now. 141 people, if we have a time to talk about each person for 3 minutes or 2 minutes, we'll find out each of us has different kind of value systems. Okay, and how to reflect their own values and experience-based, engaged pedagogical approaches. That's what you're to think. If you learn something, if you learn something today, and particularly if you do the calculator on your own in the next few minutes or afterwards at your own time, and if something comes to your mind, oh, usually what I do to my student, ask my students, okay, you do this calculator, but make a recommendation, changes, what you call sensitivity analysis. You change one parameter, like either instead of having 1 kg meat per month or something that you people eat, or maybe 6 months, reduce it, and then see how much impact does it make. And think about the linkage that one producing 1 kg meat, where it's coming from, who's producing, how much effort is going. We don't value it. As you say, as culturally, again, we have been taught, and I appreciate that very much. When you eat, we give it thanks, right? Now, thanks to those who believe Thanksgiving coming tomorrow. In the US, they call it celebrate on Thanksgiving tomorrow. So to think, we eat a food, think about where the food is coming from, either from Indonesia or India or Bangladesh or Australia. Some farmer, somebody is producing, but that before they produce, that fertilizer is coming from somewhere else, either from some country. Somebody's doing it. A lot of effort gone into it to get the fertilizer, to get the nutrition, produce that food, make that food available to your store. You go and buy it, and somebody's cooking that, either you cook or somebody cooks it, and we eat, and we appreciate. Then we waste a lot of food, a lot of things to do. Okay, so in this process, you need to think about the engaged, experience-based, and apply the approach. So with that similar thing to the learning approaches we can apply in life. Okay, this is what I mean. So that's my presentations, and thank you very much. Now it's up to you, Melanie, what you want to do from here. Either I am here to answer any questions that we have, or you can ask the participants to use those calculators and do it. It's up to you what you want to do next few minutes.
All right. Okay, thank you so much, Professor Huda, for a very insightful and quite a lot of things that we learned today from Professor Huda, from food waste, how to reduce carbon footprints, until up to the how we need to change our educational way through more experience rather than abstract way. Thank you so much for that. Okay, class, because Professor Huda, with this so many participants, so we unmute everybody to avoid distraction. Now, usually we will ask everybody who wants to ask question to put their name in the chat room in Zoom, so I can then give them permit to ask you. Is there any question, guys? Is there anyone to or is there any of you who already tried the footprint calculator? So now then we can discuss what did you find, yeah, the result from your calculation from the footprint calculator. Is there any? Why are you okay, maybe I can ask Jacqueline. Hello, Jacqueline, are you here? Or Mahmoud?
Yes,
did you try the calculator, or do you want to ask something to Professor Huda?
Yes, I want to ask a professor.
Yeah, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you,
yes.
Mahmoud. Please go ahead. I got your chat. I read the chat, your message. I'm just reading your chat. Yep, message. Yeah,
okay, sir. Okay, sir. Sir, as you mentioned that vegetable and food as you mentioned that there is high energy consumption.
Yep.
Sir?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, sir. But you said the vegetable and food crops and the fruit, I mean, have low energy consumption.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm thinking, sir, looking at the industrial production of these fruits in converting them to can and so many things, didn't they produce high energy? That's number one, sir. The second question is on rice production. As you said, rice produces methane.
Yes.
Yes. So how can we reduce or control the production of methane of rice, sir?
Okay. There are two parts of question. Thank you, Mahmoud. The first question was about the meat and the different fruits and vegetables, their what you call the carbon footprints, energy. So it just is relative matters, right? If you take the statistics, you can see 1 kg of meat or beef produce so much energy required to produce, whereas if producing 1 kg, low. That's what I'm thinking about, right? It takes relative. So depending on the meat, you need to feed them proper food to get, let's say in Australia, for example, lots of high value proteinaceous food need to be fed them. So that costs money to reduce 1 kg of beef, kind of thing. Whereas comparatively low if you're producing some fruits and vegetables. That's what it meant, I think. Okay. So, and generally, that's what they say, and the vegetarians. So in Australia, and now it's happening, many people, they are introducing in the lifestyle at least a day to just vegetarian. Like, many people in India are vegetarians. right? So that way they can save some footprints. The second point that you have, Mahmoud, is about the rice and methane. There are a number of new technologies are available to produce rice intensively cultivations. So there are not of technologies are available that can be used to minimize the submerged rice, kind of, for example, that's where the methane coming from. That can be reduced. And you also asked me to give the email address. Now, either Melanie can send to everybody, but I'm just putting my, sorry, I didn't put that in the email. Now I can do that in my presentation. s.huda, that's all it is, s.huda at westernsydney.edu.au. So I can go to chat box and put that, I think, for everybody. Or in my presentation, I'm just doing it. I just add what do you call, I have done that. Now, can I share the screen now or not? Share the screen. And
I did put it in the Zoom chat, Prof.
Yeah, it is already now in my presentation. Can you see the first part? You can see that. Right. Mahmoud, you asked that email. Can you see my email address, that please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I saw it, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
No worries, guys. I also will share Professor Mahmoud, Professor Huda's email to all of you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Mahmoud, now another interesting question, Professor Huda, from Ade Brian.
Okay.
From Shanghai University in Shanghai, if I'm not wrong. Come on, Ade Brian, it's your turn.
Thank you, Dr. Melanie, for the opportunity. Professor Samsul Huda, a very interesting question. Yeah, I have a question. Yeah, you showed that about the data regarding the food waste in your presentation. That we realize that many other countries still produce a lot of food waste, and we realize that in another country, maybe in Africa or somewhere else, they still have a famine problem.
Yes.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, I hear something. Well, the rest in the world, we still have a problem in the famine problem, malnutrition, and something. How such resource management allocation can be developed in the future world for the sustainability of the world in the future. So maybe one country that have oversupply and usually producing their much of the food waste can transfer their supply of foods to another country. Is it a good idea, or what do you think about this? And also, what is the best key intervention for international platforms to collaborate in such purpose, so we reduce the hunger and poverty at the same time? And my second question is, what will be a challenge to involve the next sustainability, like interlinking with water, food, and energy in new regions, for example, in Indonesia or somewhere else, and how to promote this to be a sustainable much more? Thank you.
Very good question. A very good comment. I have not only the question, but comments that you made. I didn't get your name. Where you were speaking, I didn't speak which. Anyway, excellent question. There are two parts of the question. Now, really pleased that you asked that. You're from China. Did you say Melanie is based from China? Is this student?
Yes. Ade is a graduate student. Indonesian nationality, but now is studying in Shanghai.
Oh, excellent. Very good. Thank you for that question. The two parts of your question. I'll answer your second part. I'll try to answer him. It looks like the way you asked the question, you have good ideas about it, particularly when you say the water, energy, food nexus. We use the word nexus, right? The challenges. All each of them are each of them is important and challenging in its own right, like water issues, right? Huge issues in water around the world, no matter which country you're talking about. People say if there's a next world war, that will be water, around world water. That's what many people take that, okay? And you can think of regional context, like India, Bangladesh. I know that the water issues, and the other country I can mention that what issues are there. Energy, you mentioned that energy issues. We talked about briefly here, okay? Energy, how its demand is going up, and the fossil fuels versus renewable versus nuclear energy. We know that, okay? And the food. So in producing food is so important. Everybody needs to eat food, okay? And quality food. Now to produce food, we need both water and energy. And hence your question, the water, energy, food, and health. I would like to add, I'm not sure that you mentioned that health or not. I like to add health. And hence Melanie, who picked up that paper, which we presented in 2010 in Vienna a few years ago, and that's the paper you're talking about. And I tried to do that. It's very challenging, this data, right? You asked the question. I think it's a very challenging question. In fact, that's what you said. We thought that linking the water, energy, food, and health, both human and animal health, if you just a plant, all these issues, we can't link it. It's incredibly complex, where it is important. So I cannot answer your question, but only thing I can say, we tried. I tried that a few years ago and didn't succeed. Because we think about it, people want to do it. Even now we're continuing it. So people like yourself, you say you're a student from Indonesia studying in Shanghai. I like to hear from you in few years' time and continue on. Don't give up. I'm not giving up. And to continue, and I do know some of my colleagues here, they're talking about it. And in Australia, in the US, I know, and in Qatar, and bringing that nexus. So your point is very valid. And I can answer in a number of ways, but only thing is needs to a forward-thinking people like yourself and others. The energy, we need to bring them in. But in terms of when you talk research funding, at one of the politics you learn as you grow, people will talk about it, I'll talk about it, to interact, all these things. But when you go for funding, money, they still draw a box. Okay, you are in food or food scientists or food researchers or energy researchers, water researchers, you get funding like that. But when you need to think of big, like what you're doing, people think about it. We need to think about it and you need to bring that in. And some of the projects that I'm doing and leading, it has those kind of issues. But how to promote? This only way to promote is keep doing it and appreciating it and understanding it. And your first question was about the food waste issues around the world. And you did say that whether or not that could be international, I agree totally with you. And you need to build your think and advance your thinking. Go and attend some more conferences, presentations, write some papers, talk about people. And the first question is even more challenging to think, as you say, looking into these figures. I think that's what prompted you to think about it, that some parts of the world are wasting food at one end, like production end, and other part of the world is wasting food at another end, like consumption end. So your question was, if I understood correctly, is some sort of international collaborations can be done and thinking about to overall international approach to minimize waste and produce food. And I think this is great thinking. And maybe you should be able to come up with some sort of plan and business plan to do something and research. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Ade Brian, for such a kicking question. Yeah, and Zahra Amani here, Professor Huda wants to share experience using the footprint calculator. Zahra?
He has done it? Excellent.
Are you still here, Zahra? Zahra? Oh, maybe, yeah. I don't know, some bad connection. Okay, yeah. let's move on to Lestari. Mbak Lestari, you are raising. I think it's an interesting question, Mbak Lestari.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah. Oh, I think Zahra also here.
Please,
Okay. Okay, Zahra, come on. Okay, after Zahra, then Lestari.
Okay, thank you.
Zahra, are you still here, darling?
yes,
Zahra.
I can't mute him, ma'am. So unmute. Can you? He's muted here, computer. Can you just? She's putting a chat box. Zahra's put something in chat box.
Oh, okay.
Hello, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. I try to calculate my carbon footprint before in www.conservation.org/carbon-footprint calculator.
Yes.
And the result is my carbon footprint is 10.81 tons. And then after I do some tips to reduce my carbon footprint is 10.27 tons. Yeah. Tips and I did something tips to reduce carbon footprint like save energy and avoid food waste, eat more plants, and many more. Thank you.
Excellent, Zahra, for your effort. Really appreciated it. And so that you give it a go, and hope somebody else have given it a go. If another student have done, another participant has done it, then I'd like to see what the difference was. And that's the way I do in my class. Let's say, ask, okay, you got 10.8, that's great. And you also tried to manipulate, change it, and you got some different. So could have been, if you did something different, you might have got significant trial. Like it didn't reduce much 10.8 to something else. If you did something, what did you change? That's the question I could ask. What did you change in your thing? Did you mentioned something? I didn't get it about the changes that you made. Is anybody else has done it? Melanie, can you ask anybody else has done that?
Yura also ever tried this footprint calculator. Yura, are you here? Hello, Yura. Yura, yeah, are you here? Yeah. Yeah, you can share your experience.
Oh yeah, I was ever tried this system for carbon calculator at my lecture time. It introduced by my lecturer at class, and then I tried it, and we input the food waste. We calculate about food waste, our food waste at 5 until 10. We spent, and after that we chose to calculate about the transportation also, and then it make it clear about how big we spend the carbon and how we have used the energy and carbon also at our entire life, as long as we live in this world. Maybe that's all I can share for this session.
All right. Okay.
I don't have
Thank you very much. Really
because,
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have question, Professor, because you make it clear, very clear. Thank you so much for your new insight.
Thank you, Yura. Thank you for also share your experience. Okay, now we ask again Mbak Lestari to raise question to Professor Huda. Can you unmute yourself, Mbak Lestari?
While he's unmuting, some students asked to send the link of the calculators. So one of the slides has those links. Yeah. Melanie can send that particular slide. The students are going to get that PowerPoint or not? I'm not sure whether they're going to get, but at least those.
It depends on you, Professor. Do you give me permission to share the PDF or your PPT? All right, I will transform it to PDF, then I will distribute to the students. Thank you, Professor. Right, great. Yes, Mbak Lestari?
Okay, thank you, Miss Melanie. Professor Huda, I would like to ask you about my question here. As you mentioned that one of greenhouse gases reduction action for agricultural inputs is a choice of land and also a soil type. But as you know that in fact, when the population increase, then we even open peatland, you know that peatland is very fragile and so many carbon is already absorbed that. But when we open it, then we can then save the carbon. So what do you think about this condition? Because like now the degradation of peatland is still continue, and even fire also happened every year in peatland of Indonesia. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, thanks again for that thoughtful, the comments and the questions, if you like, the comments. You started with saying the population increase and our dependence on the resources are so intense. So it's very difficult to answer that question, but think this way. These are the social, not necessarily the technological issues, which you mentioned about the peat and the degraded land and the issues that can be brought in through science and technology. So that's one issue, which of course we can do. We can look into the technology aspect, science aspect, we can apply the knowledge and do it. But much of it also comes from our thinking, political issues, social issues, right? I give you one, you gave an example from Indonesia. I give you an example from India, my childhood and how I grew up. I think all the time, I do go every year. Well, this year I couldn't go because of these other issues. Every year I go to my village in India and through research and other activities that I have. So when you grow up, many years ago though, is lots of gardens, lands, water, fish was going up. But now, as you said, the pressure on the land increased and everybody, I don't know what happened in Indonesia. It happened in Australia, land clearing happened, people became the pressure on land. So every garden, mango orchards, and everything was cleared. Every piece of land they put into farming. All the ponds in the villages, it's a fun time, our school day, after school holidays, after exams, we used to go and catch fish in the field because there's rice and field, as you say, together, grown kind of thing. This is all put under the land cultivation. But now again, the last few years, people have realized the value of trees and gardens and not only beautiful things. It's coming back again. But still there's a lot of pressure. So answering your question, yes, there are some science and technology. We need to appreciate that. They bring the technology and knowledge in terms of minimizing the waste and use the degraded land and degraded resources and pits and all that and the fire issues that we have. So there are some technologies we can use and apply. And so discuss and again a collaboration, important. But we have our thinking has to change. So for the future looking thinking like you are talking about it, so if you start thinking about it and you'll talk to other people and you'll influence and possibly one day you'll be in position in the power which you'll have and you can influence. And so bring the science and apply the science to solve our social and cultural issues. Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Professor Huda. Maybe we will pick just one last question, yeah, because it's already almost Maghrib time in Indonesia.
Thank you.
From Amaria. Amaria, you want to ask a question to Professor Huda? Amaria, are you still here? Amaria Anugrah? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please, darling.
So there's been a lot of times where when I hear about this is how much food we waste, and this is how much food we lost, and I'm curious about how do you know about the quantity of food that wasted and lost, and how about food that wasted in domestic, do you still count it or not?
Yes, yes, that's an excellent question. And I think Melanie asked me, in fact, before to talk about the paper that you took, food loss and food waste in Qatar context. So when you're doing that project for 3.5 years, we did visit and interview many households, many hotels, restaurants, and also different shop fronts, like where the produces are marketed, sold. But so coming back to and your question was, if I understood that from the family level, for example, we eat our food and waste it. So one of the questions in the survey that we asked people in Qatar, particularly from different people, so we learned that, and I can vouch that because I come from India similarly, and it's everywhere it happens. Let's say when you invite 3 people or 5 people your home, people know that for 5 people how much food, meat or rice or chicken or whatever you produce, or sweets, it required. But culturally, if we have 5 people coming our home, we prepare 10 persons or 15 persons food. Reason being, they told us, and I agree with that because I've seen similar sort of cultural background I do come from to some extent, that we need to be shown to the people that we have enough food produced for the respect to the guests that come home. If you have a lot of food, they say, oh, I'm very happy, they want it. But they are happy with it, culturally, they're coming. And then what happens? They don't eat it, and it's thrown. Of course, these days, we can use some of the food in the fridge for maybe 1 day or 2 days or something like that. But then it ultimately gets wasted, right? Also, but we can do a lot of things. These days, we can, like in Australia, for example, they're doing it now, lots of fruits and vegetables that wasted. To some extent, not wasted means they're not of good quality. When you go to buy, people are with quality, look at the color of the fruits and all that kind of stuff and shape. And then other things will be less price. So people are giving that to donating charity. Okay, it's happening in different countries. I'm sure it happened in all countries. So, you know, your question was, how do we assess and estimate how much food we are wasting? I think it's not easy, but can be done. So for example, it also has sources. I understood for many of the families, particularly the country that we were talking about, the owner doesn't go to buy foods. The person who cooks food is different. The person who goes to buy foods in the shop is different. Person who pays money is different. So, and the person who eats, even they're different sometimes. Now, so in the whole process, there is no communication, no coordination. So people who go for shopping, or if you need only 1 kg of fish, maybe you buy 2 kgs of fish or something like that. Or 1 kg of certain things, maybe 2 kgs, bring it home. And then in a 1 day time, 2 days time, if you don't have good proper freeze or something like that, you don't know what to keep them stored. There's lots of technologies out there. The science and technology habit need to bring in your cultural and day-to-day habit kind of thing. Learning, education. So it's very difficult to assess how much food is, but it can be done through some training and through, now in this case, if I may say so, we have been taught to think about family life and values, and you talk the values, depends, every family has some sort of values. Don't waste food, don't waste water, don't use resources. We teach our children something like that. Okay, well, I've been taught when I was growing up, but not knowing much of science about it and so much of these things, but we've been taught. don't waste a resource. If you do, then you have to be responsible, you know, kind of thing. So I think to answer your question, very important questions. Time is running out. I just your prayer time is coming. Very good question. Thinking about it, and you need to have lots of what you call education plays a lot important, and thinking about whole things, all the issues. So minimizing the wastes and how can it be done? Thank you for that question again.
All right. So this is the end of this session. Once again, Professor Huda, thank you so much for your significant contribution to this summer course and for a very insightful session today. And then at the end, you give us, not me, because I'm not young anymore. You guys, yeah, the participant of this summer course challenged from Professor Huda to become the future leaders, and then how you will contribute, you will lead this world to reduce the carbon footprint. All right, yeah, that will be your task for the future. Thank you so much, Professor Huda. Big applause for Professor Huda, and hopefully you will be available also for our next summer course in next year, Professor Huda. Yeah, with because yeah, Professor Huda has so many paper in so many issues, and then yeah, we will have so many topic to pick from Professor Huda's experience. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. You can put my email in that email address in the presentation and share it with the PDF, Melanie, so that someone can get an email address. If they contact me, I'll be happy. Any questions they have.
Okay. Yes. Guys, you can also contact Professor Huda through email. Again, thank you, Professor Huda.
They can contact you also and copy to you. That's to keep you informed. I think it's good to keep you informed if they do.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. And then after this, I will have a short briefing with the participant, Professor Huda. If you want to leave us, it's all right also. Yeah. But thank you for.
Can I leave now? Can I leave now? I can leave now, and you can contact me afterwards, right? It's almost 10 o'clock for us, so.
Right. Yes. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Okay, guys. So this is just 10 minutes briefing, yeah, because I think it's already Maghrib time now in Indonesia now. Yeah, it's already Maghrib time, but this is important because some of you seems didn't have a chance to read the rules and the group task, the group task that I already sent to you through the PPT presentation through your email. Yeah, this is important, so you need to read it. But I will share. I will just highlight some important things to guide you to do your task, yeah, and then to guide you to pass the summer course. Okay. Okay. Share screen. Oh, how can I can't share screen here? Okay. Okay, can you see the PPT? Maria, can you see my PPT? Maria?
Yes,
yeah, Pak Arif. Okay, guys. So you already know that you for the non-certificate scheme. Yeah, for you, sorry, not the non-certificate scheme. For you guys who choose the certificate scheme, you will be required to do minimum attendance, okay, minimum synchronous attendance, and then you also have to do group tasks and then individual tasks, okay. For the rule of minimum attendance, I already told at the first the briefing after the opening that the Southeast Asia-based students should have attendance rate of 11 sessions of lecture and 11 sessions of hands-on practical, okay. And the other participants, or whoever can't fulfill this 11-11, yeah, you can do 8-8, okay. But then you have to compensate it with your individual task, the learning journal, okay. Your learning journal is from 100 to 150 words, okay. Please do not write too long learning journal, okay. Just between 100 to 150 words per entry, per session, okay. And then your learning journal entries is lectures 1 to lecture 13, and then practice 3 to practice 6, okay. Which one is L1, which one is L6? Here, I already give it to you in the PPT. So L1 is Professor Arthur Moll's session. P3 is yesterday Miss Anissa Hasanah session about ecopanopoly. And then the L9, lecture 9. So yeah, we already come to lecture 9. Yeah, time goes so fast. It was from Professor Samsul Huda. Yeah. And then and so on and so on, okay. This is the entries of your learning journal. It's in total 17, but you don't have to do, of course, 17, yeah. For those who can do the more attendance, so you will be required a less learning journal, okay, and then vice versa, okay. So for you who can do the minimum 11P and 11L, then you can do minimum 11 entries of learning journal, meaning that 11 session of learning journal, okay. But if you can't do this 11-11 attendance, then you will have to compensate it with more learning journals, 14 entries, okay. So if you can catch up the sessions via YouTube and via Google Drive. I will also give you the link for the Google Drive, yeah. And what else? Okay, then this is also the important thing, that because some of you asked me where to submit the learning journal for each session. No, you don't have to submit it by session, yeah, but you can submit it after you complete, yeah, after you complete the required minimum amount of entries, okay. So after you complete it, you send the learning journal through this link, yeah. And don't forget to write title. Where is it? Oh, where is it? Okay, here. For each learning journal entry, so for each session, you have to write a title, yeah, a title in the form of phrase or question, okay. And then after you complete the required minimum of entries, then you have to write the main title or main theme to wrap up all of your learning journal entries, yeah. And don't forget to write your full name, affiliation, and email address under the big theme, under the big title, okay, because you will have to upload the learning journal to this link using the Word document file, yeah. So in this link, yeah, you will need to write your name, and then you write your affiliation and email, and then after that you have to upload. You have to upload your learning journal in Word document. And don't forget, in that document, you will also have to put your name, okay? Don't forget to put your name, okay? Because then it will make us, it will make disaster to us if you forgot to put your name in your document that have to submit it to us, okay? And your learning journal will be reviewed and marked by the ESL lecturers, yeah? And then each of us, each reviewer will nominate 2 best learning journal, okay? And then all the best learning journal nominations will be sent to Professor Zulfan Tajuddin for further review. If you still remember, your first lecture about learning journal was delivered by Professor Zulfan Tajuddin. So the nomination for best learning journal will be sent to Professor Zulfan Tajuddin for further review. And at the awarding and closing day, which will be Saturday, 5th of December, Dr. Zulfan will deliver feedback for the nominated best learning journals. Okay, there will be a feedback session of learning journal in our closing day. Yeah, and 3 best learning journals will be announced and awarded. So there will be prize for the best learning journals. Yeah. Okay, and now the general rule for attendance and learning journals, if you can't fulfill the 11L plus 11P, yeah, of minimum attendance, then you have to write more learning journal, at least 14 sessions, and vice versa. Okay, fail to fulfill this minimum requirement means you are not eligible to get the summer course certificate. Okay, this is also important. Maybe some of you confused about the certificate, because now every session you get the e-certificate, right? So this is the e-certificate for the session is not obligation. It's not your obligation to collect it. Yeah, we just provide it for you, for some of you who need it. Okay, your obligation is to fill in the attendance form. Yeah, so the summer course certificate, yeah, you will get it if you pass the summer course, if you pass the individual task, the minimum attendance, and the group tasks. Okay, yeah, so you will get the summer course certificate at the end of this the whole summer course program. Yeah, and it's different with this e-certificate that you get every single session. Okay, yeah, and your summer course certificate will have the dean signature, and then also the remarks of what did you learn for the whole program, and then the amount of learning hours, and also the expiry date. So your certificate will be available for 2 years. So if you want to arrange the claim for your credit, or for your credit hours to your home-based university, you can use this certificate, and then it can be claimed within 2 years. Okay, maybe the next semester you already have full credit in your university, so you can't add, then you can claim the hour certificate, summer course certificate, in next semester and next semester within 2 years. Okay, then please remember that attendance less than 8L plus 8P, then you fail. and less than 11 entries of learning journal, you also fail. Okay, so please do your obligation of these summer course participants, because we don't provide cheap summer course certificate. Okay, yeah, so please do this whole program diligently, because this is also important for your academic life. Yeah, for your you know, for writing skill, for any other soft skill. Yeah, okay. And then for online attendance form, please don't forget to fill in your online attendance form that we provide in each session in the Zoom chat room. Okay. Okay, now the group tasks are already sent. We already sent to you the group division. Please, who already choose for certificate scheme, but you didn't have the group division, you don't have the group. Yeah, please contact me as soon as possible. Okay, task for each group is just 2 instead of 3. Okay, so we already eliminate the essay task from the group task. Now your task is only 2. A meaningful photo related to carbon reduction action in the new normal era, and this is not or, yeah, this is and. Okay, or and a video blog related to carbon reduction action in the normal era. Okay, this is your group task. Okay, you have 14 to 15 members of your group, so you can just distribute this 2 tasks. Yeah, maybe 3 people do the photo and the rest of the group do the video. It's up to you. Okay, because we also aware that it's difficult for you to, you know, to meet virtually given these different time zones. Yeah, okay, so please just do